In this video, I will show you the whole process of transforming this image into this one. Alright, let's start with creating a new file in Photoshop. Usually I use 4000 by 5000 pixels. That's big enough for printing and for digital art. So this is what I usually use, create. And the first thing I do is to import this photo. Now you can see here we have this black background. So this is really easy to remove the background. Let me put this to gray. If I go to select subject, it's going to make this selection of these links here. Now, if I just make a mask, we get rid of that background. Of course, you can see this border doesn't look good now. So let me first put a background here. Just drag it in this file. Hold down Alt to make it bigger. And like that. Now, if I press on this layer and select the mask, I can easily fix this edge here. So with this, you can just go around the edge of your image like that. And these whiskers here, you can all bring them back, as you can see. So this is really easy to do here. And everything got back to the real thing, like the original photo, like that. Right? So you can see here, it made the selection inside this. So I'm gonna fix that after this. So press OK. And now if I rasterize this layer, so first of all, make sure you have the right composite. So if you want to make it bigger first before you're gonna do some rasterizing here, because the quality will be bad if you don't do that. Right? So let me first rasterize this layer, and now I can edit this. So if I select the clone stamp tool, which you can find here, usually I leave the settings at 100, sometimes a little bit less. And if I hold down Alt or Option on Mac, make a selection and bring it to the side. And now you can see here we get this nice fur on the edge of these links. So this is what I do to get a real good cut of this image. And I don't have to worry about the edges of this image anymore. All right, so you can do this. Sometimes it's a bit harder, so it all depends on your photo. But because this photo was on a black background, I can easily fix this. Right, so let me first do this here, a bit here. And now we can make this look like a real image, like a real background. So just do this around the edge. Now, when you get to points like these whiskers here, it's better to make a new layer. Press right mouse and create a clipping mask. And then select the brush with the brush tool. And here you want to select just a normal general brush, soft round brush. Bring the opacity a bit down. And these whiskers are white, so I'm going to use white as a color. Now, let me first make this brush a little bit smaller. It's way too big now, so you can see it. Just like that. And now I can brush these whiskers white because they got a little bit black now. So just like that. Just make sure you only do the whiskers and not here, because this looks weird. So like that, like that. All right, let's do these things here, these here. These are little things that you probably won't even see at the end when you're done with the design. But I'd like to make it look good, so I'm gonna do this precisely. And here we have also white fur. So here we can also just use the brush to make the edge better. Same goes for these here. You can just make them white like that. Let's not make those white. All right, we can see here, where was it? Here we got a little bit, get rid of this inside of this animal. So usually I just brush these parts back with the white brush on this mask, right? So we can brush these here, and now you can see we're bringing back the original photo. So we don't want to have like transparent areas here. We want to see the original photo here. Also here, here. Right, so you can do this really precisely. Let me also brush a bit here. See, white brush. Right, this is a bit complicated, so you might want to go back to select a mask and do it a bit here again to get rid of these weird areas, right? Just like that. All right, let me brush a bit here, here. I think this looks fine. Looks a bit funny now, but okay. And also a bit here. Oh, wrong one. Don't forget to switch between the clone stamp tool and the brush to make these areas look good. just these edges like that. I think this looks fine. Looks pretty real to me. You don't want to see these hard edges like this, like here, right? So usually I fix all these little things, but I'm not gonna do it now. It's gonna take a lot of time. Just gonna do it like this. Maybe we can even do it like that. Oh. And if you brush too much, you can just use a normal brush to get rid of these parts again, like that, to make it perfect. All right, let's move on. The next thing to do here is to get some depth in this image and change the colors a bit, because this background is way too orange for this image. So let's first get rid of that orange in the background. So I'm just gonna use a hue saturation here. Let's drop that orange first, like that. And also some yellows here. Let's leave the yellows. Maybe we can create some lighting with it. And we also need to blur this out, but it's a smart object now. So I have to press right mouse to rasterize this first and go to blur, blur gallery, and select, no, sorry, blur, and select lens blur. And with the lens blur, we can blur this really out. So I'm just gonna bring the radius all the way up to 100. So we have all our focus on these links, or maybe something like 80, something like that. Press OK. And that's it for the background. Now, the background, we need to make it a bit darker so we have more focus on this link. So I'm gonna create a curves and I'm gonna bring the highlights a bit down like that. And you can see here we get this nice focus on these links now. All right, the next thing to do is to work on these links. But first I wanna have something in the foreground. So for this, you can actually use any image that you want. I have like this back of these kind of leaves or plants, whatever. You can place them in the front like that. And it doesn't matter how this looks now because I'm gonna really blur this out. So what I want to do now is to just place all this stuff around it. So we have a lot of stuff going on here. And you can see it's not even a photo. This is just an illustration I found on the internet. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna place all these plants around it like that. And I don't even have to worry about the colors or blending and stuff like that, because this is gonna get blurred out a lot. So let me just place enough of these plants around it, maybe a bit greenish here. You can even duplicate these so you don't have to find lots of different plants. Just put them like that, duplicate it another time, rotate it a bit, put some there, maybe like that. Let's try another one, maybe this one. And you can see here we get a lot of stuff now. Don't put it in front of its face because we still want to see its face. All right, so I think this is enough for now. And what I'm going to do now is select all these layers by holding down Shift and then press Ctrl E to make it one layer. Let's make a smart object so we can always change the settings later. And maybe this one is too much here, but okay. Let's go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And with the Gaussian Blur, we gonna blur this out like this is really close on the foreground to the camera. So now we need to find the right spot. So I think this was already pretty good. So something like this. Now, of course, this part here doesn't look right. So usually I just erase them with or make a mask and select the black brush and you can get rid of these parts again. So you don't want to ruin the image, but just areas around it, like here down and in these corners, stuff like that. Now, this is a bit dark and I'm gonna press Control first on this layer, press Control U, and then bring up the lightness here. So you get like really light stuff like that, right? So we have more focus on this. All right, let's make the background even less saturated like that. I think this is even better. Something like this. All right, let's do some lighting changes here because we didn't do anything with the lighting yet. So first of all, I'm gonna create a new layer on top of the background layer. And I'm gonna select something like yellowish white and just bring the opacity up, make a dot like that. You can see here this dot, and I'm gonna make this big and put it behind these links, so we get a bit of a soft edge between the links and this background. It will make it look a bit softer to look at instead of this hard edge from dark to light, right? So something like this. Now let's work on the lighting here. So first of all, these links, let's create a curves, and let's drop these highlights just to the second row here. Now you have to decide from where the lighting will be, because there is no lighting on this photo now. So if your lighting will be from here, we need to make sure these areas are lighter. But if you want to make lighting from that side, you have to do the other side. So let's do it from this side. I like to do it from the left up side always. I don't know why, but I just enjoy lighting from the left side. So we want to make sure some areas are lighter, like there, here. Let's also make this highlight. So actually we only need to make one side a bit darker, and now we can adjust this a bit if you want to. So maybe a bit darker to get more contrast, like that. All right, now the next thing to do is to do some dodge and burn here, because I always like to do dodge and burn. So I'm creating a new layer on top of these links. Change the blend mode to overlay, so 50% gray layer, and then just use the burn tool and start off with highlights. Do some highlights first around this edge, maybe even more, something like 50. And these darker areas, burn them a bit darker than it was, like that. Maybe also here a bit, and then do some midtones. This is actually, the process is always the same to make areas darker like this, and some shadows, and bring this down like that. Maybe it's a bit too dark, so when it gets too dark, you can just change the settings here. All right, let's also make his eyes light. I think that is probably one of the most important things to do when you edit wildlife photos like this, because the eyes need to be visible always. Like that. Let's do highlights here for these reflections here. I think you can see a softbox there. The photo's probably taken in the studio. Just like that. And you can see here, it looks a lot interesting to look at. All right, we have this green here. I don't like this color green, so I'm going to create a hue saturation, and I'm going to change this green a bit. So let's see. These are way too happy colors for this. So we can also select green here, and with these sliders, we can adjust the green. You can see here this green. So get rid of that green. All right, now we need to create a light source. We don't have light source yet, but we did change the lighting on this link. So I'm just going to make a little dot here at the top here at the left, like that. You can move it up just like that, and now we have also light source and lighting coming from that side. You can always stretch it out if you want to, just a little bit. All right, the background is a bit light now, so usually when you create, you need to adjust everything again. So I made this background a bit light now. So let's see if I remove this. I'm gonna leave it, but I'm going to make it a bit darker on that side. So we only have lighting on the left side, and this side will be darker. And actually these whiskers that we made white, I would even make them darker now, because that's like in the darker part of this link. So maybe this will even better, or maybe like halfway, bit grayish like that. All right, next thing to do is to work on these links again. So I'm going to create a new layer and fill this with 50% gray. This is inside these links again. Change the blend mode to overlay, and let's do some dodge here. So you can see here we can create some highlights. This is way too much, so you need to drop the exposure here, maybe just like that. I want to create like a little bit of a edge around this side, because we have now lighting there, so need to make sure we have a bit of lighter parts on this side, just like that. You can also do it like these parts here. This is way too much, so I'm going to switch to midtones now. maybe here, like that. Also this here. Just some lighter parts. Let's see, maybe even here a bit. If it gets a weird color, like now you can see it gets yellow. I don't want to have it yellow. You can also use a brush. Change the blend mode to overlay. Overlay doesn't work here. Color dodge maybe. And drop the opacity here. And also the flow. You can also brush like that. So now we don't get this weird yellow color because it ruins the image a bit. Now, first I usually do it like this, and then I select a eraser tool and do it like that. So we have like more of this hard edge instead of that soft thing. I think this looks fine. You can also do it on some other parts if you want. So, but this can take a lot of time to get everything right. So I'm just gonna do it quickly. Probably won't even see this, but okay. Just some little details that can make this better. Right now I have this cloud sort of background, but usually what I do is I try out different backgrounds, right? So you can see here this background here, some leaves or whatever that are, they are already blurred out. And if you have images that have blur from the camera, like the original blur, it's gonna look a lot better than the blur in Photoshop, as you can see here, right? So try out different backgrounds. Sometimes you get amazed by how a image changes after you change the background. Like this looks also really cool. I think this is even better than those clouds. We can make this look like a real photo now. So try to use these original blur, maybe like this. This is in the background. They're gonna use this one. And I have also one more. Let's see. No, I don't have one more. I'm gonna use this one for the background, but we need to give it a bit more contrast. So I'm gonna make it slightly darker like that. And you can see here this original image also has dark parts on the right side. So that's also good if you have images that have the same lighting as your edited photo on the foreground. So just like this. Maybe this blur in the foreground, we don't even need that. This looks also pretty cool. So this is an ongoing process of trying out different stuff. So sometimes it's really hard for me to make these tutorials because I spend a lot of time on changing stuff. So once I have this idea, like, okay, I'm going to use this, I'm going to change a lot of stuff again. So this is the basic idea I have now. And now I can just move stuff around, try to make it bigger, smaller until I get something that I really like. So maybe this lighting is a bit too much now. So just gonna do it like this. Not sure about this foreground. Maybe I have to like brush it to make this look better. It doesn't feel right to me now. So let me just try to edit this a bit. So if I would make a video on the whole process of this, it's gonna probably gonna take a couple of hours. So actually this is like the basic steps I do to create something like this. And after that I can even do other stuff like add some insects or some butterfly or stuff like that. Just little things to make it better, maybe some flowers here in the foreground. But you get the point to this. So I'm gonna do like more changes to this, and after that I will show you how it looks. All right, the next thing I do to make this better is I have this layer here of these links, and I'm gonna rasterize this. So let me first select all these layers from these links, put this in a folder, and usually I duplicate this folder so I can always go back if I need to, and press Ctrl E on this folder, and I have like one layer for these links. Now, if I go here to blur tool, I usually blur out the edge of this animal. So when you blur out the edge, you don't get this hard edge, and it will blend better with this background to make it look more real. So I will do this around these links here. You probably won't even notice the difference what I'm doing now, but it will actually make this look more like a real photo. Just like that, little bit of changes. Now, the next thing to do is what I do is I export this as a PNG file and open this up in Lightroom. As you can see here, I got this opened up in Lightroom and I have my presets here. And you can see how big the difference this makes when I apply one of these. And if you want to get these, you can check the link in the description. They are really cool to make your artwork look really different from the original one. So now what I do is I usually select a couple of these. So maybe, let's see, I like this one and this one. Think I like a lot of these. So I'm gonna use a couple of these. This one also. Let me zoom out here a bit so I can change this a little bit. So maybe a bit bigger. So this is what I'm going to use. I have a Dutch version of Lightroom, so you probably won't know what's here, but this doesn't matter because I'm not gonna change the settings. I'm just gonna change this circle of lighting. And we have lighting on the left side, so I want to make sure it's a bit like that. Then I press right mouse, export, and I just export this. This is one export. Now, I'm going to press Ctrl Z to go back. So I have the original again, so I can compare this. So I have one file created now, and now I'm going to create another file. And I also like this one. This is also pretty cool. And I select this circle here, and I change this lighting a bit to that side. Because we have lighting on that side, I'm going to rotate this a bit, stretch it out like that. Maybe a bit bigger, so it doesn't get too dark. And this one I'm also gonna export. So I have now two files. I use unique names so I don't overwrite the old one. Then go back again, Command Z, a couple times back. And all these presets are in my preset pack that you can get if you want to. So let me also do this one like this blue here. But of course, this is way too light, so I'm gonna drop this. And the white tones, we need to get rid of those. And let me try to fix this a bit. And I think this looks fine. This one I'm going to use for the colors. So I have now three files created, export, unique name. And maybe let's do one more just in case. Maybe I like something else. This one is also nice, but this white is a bit too much. So need to adjust this white a bit. And again, take the circle and bring it a bit to the left side because you have lighting on the left side. Export. And now I have created 4 different export files. And these 4 files I'm going to open up in Photoshop again. Okay, so back into Photoshop, I'm going to open up 4 files that I created from Lightroom. These 4. As you can see here, we have different files now. So first of all, select them all, select the whole image, Ctrl A, Ctrl C, and Ctrl V to paste it above all the other layers. This is the first one. Then go on to the next one. Also place it here. This one, 3. This one is really nice for the lighting. And this one, 4. Maybe I'm not going to use them all, but I'm going to try. So this is what I usually do. I have like 4 different exports from Lightroom. And here I'm only changing the opacity of these because this is way too much. It's got too dark. So I'm going to drop it maybe around 50, 60% like this. Go on to the next one. This one I liked for the colors, so I can change this to color. Let's see, color here. And you can see here we get this nice orange color now. Of course, it's too much, so I'm going to drop the opacity maybe a bit less like that. I think this looks fine. Now the next one. This one I liked, or this one was it? I like this one for the lighting. So actually, I only want to use the left side of this. So I'm going to create a mask and then select the gradient tool from black to white and only use the left side of this. Maybe just like that, something like this. Just a bit lighter there, as you can see. And we can also drop the opacity. We don't want to have too much. And this one, maybe we don't even need this one. Or maybe just a little bit, like 10%. Just a little bit of those. Let's see. And now I can play with these settings again. So usually I try to change the opacity to see how this changes until I get something that I really like. Maybe a bit like that. This one, let's see. Maybe this is too much. And this one, I think we don't need this one. Let's leave those out. All right, and next thing to do is to create a new layer. And let's first do some color balance here to get the colors better. So So let me first see. Let's do a bit more blue because we have this blue background. Gonna do a bit of blue. That's it. Now, let's also do a color lookup here. And let's try tree strip. This is way too much. So I'm gonna use this slightly, like 10% or something. And now I can create a new layer, press Command Alt Shift E. So I have a duplicated version of this layer, convert this to a smart object, then go to camera, and here I do the final settings to this image. So this looks already good, but it can always look a bit better. So here I have to play with these settings. I'm gonna drop the exposure a bit, give it a bit more contrast, a bit more highlights. Let's increase the shadow so the right side doesn't get too dark. And let's see the white. Don't want to have too much white, it's gonna ruin the image. So need to find the perfect spot, maybe a bit less white. And let's increase the blacks. All right, the texture clarity, let's increase the clarity. You can see here we get nice sharpening now. Let's leave that at 0. And now moving on to curve. Let's give it a bit more highlight. And the color mixer to get the colors also right. So here you can play with these settings. I just usually slide these one from left to right to see how it changes and if it makes it better. Can make it even greenish, but I'm gonna leave it like this. Let's see. I think this looks fine. I don't want to mess too much with it. Now calibration, last part. Let's change this orange bit. Just like that. I think this looks fine. I don't want to ruin this now. All right, press OK. And you can see here, we get a bit more contrast. Now, add some curves to this. Make the darker a bit dark now. You can see here this line goes up, so you can just bring this one to that line. Let's do some red. Maybe green also. Let's leave green. And that's actually pretty much it. I think this is done. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new, and see you on the next one.